Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar that is focused on the Vroom Community Connectors RFP. Very happy that you are here to join us today and look forward to giving you a high-level overview of this RFP and some information about the process, and hope that it will sort of get you really initiated in the process for applying. So thank you so much. Here's an agenda for what we'll cover today. We're going to do a real general overview of the Best Starts for Kids initiative. We'll talk about the equity and social justice lens that we use in the work we do here. We'll discuss some of the Vroom Community Connector strategies that we're looking for sort of addressing through this RFP. We'll have a moment to have one of our BSK evaluators join us and talk about the evaluation portion that will be completed with this RFP. And then we'll discuss ways that you can stay connected with us, as well as questions that you can ask during this webinar as well as after. So we're really looking forward to questions that you might have. And today, if you're joining us on the webinar, you can certainly type your questions into the chat box on Skype. But if you're listening in on the phone, we're definitely willing to open up those lines at the end of our presentation and take your questions on the phone. But then we also really look forward to having you join us on Twitter and letting us know what you think of Best Starts for Kids through that social media platform. All right, so really the Best Starts for Kids initiative is an initiative that was passed through a November 2015 voter-approved tax levy, and it provides about $65 million over the course of 5 years. Our vision through Best Starts for Kids is really to see babies born healthy, more kids thriving, and young people growing up to be happy, healthy, successful adults throughout King County. So I'm really looking forward to having you help us address this vision in the work that we're going to do. So how we're going to do it, Best Starts really has about 4 different areas of focus. We really look at promotion and prevention. With the promotion, it's really beginning before birth and looking at ways that we can help people throughout life. With prevention, it's preventing things like chronic and toxic stress or unsafe environments, or sort of eliminating those insufficient opportunities. We're looking to intervene early, so when challenges do arise, we want to be able to provide resources and services as soon as possible. And then there's also a component that addresses policy and systems change. So recognizing that direct services are crucial, and there needs to be a cross-system coordination so that the whole child is served. So going back to our allocation, you can see here 4 different buckets. We really have the Invest Early, which is about 50% of the levy's investment. This is where we focus on the prenatal to about age 5 year span, and where this particular RFP, the Vroom Community Connectors RFP, lies. We move forward with the Sustaining the Gain, which encompasses about 35% of the levy's investment. That focuses on the 5 to 24 age range. And then we have a component of our work that's really focused on data and evaluation, because we want to make sure that we're collecting stories and evaluating our work and making sure that we're putting forth our best efforts in getting communities what they need to thrive and be successful. And then a small component of the funding also goes to the Healthy Communities work that we're doing. That's our Communities of Opportunity work. So I mentioned that there's this equity and social justice lens that Best Starts for Kids really works to address in all of the efforts that we're putting forth. So BSK really looks at race and recognizing that racial disparities and disproportionality exist due to historical and structural and intentional policy making. That really has excluded people of color from opportunities such as education and wealth and accumulation. With that, I know that we also recognize a conscious effort to change the way things are done in government, and making sure that those policies that we enforce have impact of perpetuating or not perpetuating those inequities. When we're looking at place, we really mean that where you live, your zip code, where you're at in the community has direct impact on your health. And so we're looking to access resources and opportunities that really sort of allow everyone to feel comfortable and have what they need where they're actually living. And then we all know that King County is a very geographically diverse community, and so there's urban areas and there's rural areas, and a lot of those areas are underserved, and so we know that there's pockets of needs that people in our communities live in, and definitely recognize a need to address those areas. So I'm going to get now into a little bit about the strategy that we have really sort of come to when we're thinking about these Vroom Community Connectors in the RFP that we released last week. This strategy falls under the Help Me Grow platform that we're working on developing within King County. And Help Me Grow has 4 components that it really is comprised of. That is a centralized access point, so having the opportunity for resources to be aligned, family and community outreach. That's a lot of where my work as the Vroom Activation and Help Me Grow Systems Manager really aligns. Medical provider outreach, making sure that we're connecting with those people that in the community who provide those medical services that we all seek out, making sure that they're working with community in the best way as possible. And then again, looking at data collection and analysis, and really ensuring that we're collecting these stories and telling these stories, and meeting the needs of the community, and evaluating our efforts so that we can make sure that we make improvements along the way. So again, our RFP around Vroom Community Connectors really aligns with the Help Me Grow strategy, and as I said before, fits within that family and community outreach sort of component that we're addressing. So a lot of you might be asking at this moment, well, you're talking about this thing called Vroom, and really what is that, and what does Vroom mean, and are we going to go out and drive cars? Well, no, not so much. Vroom is really, it's a nationwide initiative. We've been fortunate in King County to have been working on promoting this initiative through my work for the last 2 years, and really working to empower parents and caregivers to take part in a more proactive role in their children's early learning opportunities. So really focusing on birth to 5-year-olds, and creating this opportunity for brain development that really is led by parents and caregivers, and followed up with interaction with children as well. So Vroom has created a lot of very intuitive tips and activities, some of which are already done in the process of just going through our everyday lives, and pairs those tips and activities with brain development so that you as a parent or caregiver can really see how your child is developing and the skills that they're learning by doing these particular activities with you. So it's based in science, and it is an initiative and a tool that we're hoping to spread very widely throughout the county in specific communities, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And now I've mentioned this sort of frame that we're calling Help Me Grow. And Help Me Grow is really one of the fundamental messages that King County has received from communities, is that there's this important need to get families the information that they need and all the coordinating and available services so that they have the right services at the right time for helping their children develop into these thriving and successful adults. So Help Me Grow is a process and a framework that we're using to do that. We're really encompassing the whole family and child approach and keeping families at the center in this work. And so our component of Help Me Grow with Vroom, the initiative as a resource and tool and continuing to promote those messages forward is one way that we're sort of getting at making sure that people and everyone in the community has access to those resources when they need them through this framework that we're calling Help Me Grow. And now into maybe a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of what we're asking for in this RFP. A couple of years ago, we did a messenger survey that really called to light 2 communities that would be probably most beneficial for getting some in-depth interaction around the usage of the Vroom tool. And the first of those communities is the Somali community. So in our request for proposals, we're asking that whoever applies and is awarded funding will help us as King County learn from families the best way to communicate these concepts about brain science and making sure that that communication comes across in a very culturally respectful and relevant perspective. There's opportunity to hold focus groups to continue to obtain community feedback. We want to look at materials that are available and really identify how they can be adapted culturally to benefit the community. And then integrate those materials and the activities, some of which I described in the description of Vroom as an initiative, into an organization's existing programming. We want to be able to collaborate with other Somali community organizations to continue to promote usage of the tools and resources that will come together from the Somali community and within the Vroom brain development activities. And then we also want to get some more information about how we can utilize Vroom as a tool as we continue to develop our framework around Help Me Grow. I think we're frozen, so give us just a moment to get back on track. But while we're doing that, I will just say that the second community that we're focused on is the Latino, Latina, LatinX community. And it was another community that was identified during that survey that I mentioned that we did a couple years ago and again earlier this year. And some of the strategies or the ideas that we hope to come forth from the funding that's released in this RFP and the work that an awarded community will do is similar. So with the Latino, Latina, and Latinx community, we really want to get some understanding about how the community understands brain science. We hope that that can be done in focus groups. So obtaining community feedback is really important to us. There's some materials that have already been translated into Spanish, but we want to identify additional materials that could be used and how that cultural adaptation could be done in a more streamlined way to affect the most benefit. We're looking at having an organization integrate those materials and activities into their existing programming. Again, collaboration is one that is very important to us, and also using the Help Me Grow framework to really understand how Vroom can be used as a tool to meet the needs of those who may not have access to resources and services when they need them. So you can probably tell that a lot of our work here is to learn together. We really want to use this opportunity through the Vroom Community Connectors RFP to get to know some of the nuances that occur in these two communities, the Somali community and the Latino, Latina, Latinx community. So I think it's a process where we at King County can definitely learn from you as a community provider what works best for communities and how we can continue to do work that benefits all of the needs in the community. There will be 2 awards, and so one award will go to the Somali community and the second award to the Latino, Latina, Latinx community. And then there are headline and secondary indicators that we're always looking to address with the work that we're doing with Best Starts for Kids. We have again, as I stated earlier, a data and evaluation expert in the room who will explain these in better depth for you in just a moment, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity to see those headline indicators that we're looking to address with this Vroom Community Connectors RFP. So our funding priorities are really to work with organizations who are embedded in these communities of color, those who serve immigrants and refugees or low-income communities, communities with disabilities, and those who are speaking limited English. I think that's very important to the work that we're doing and very important to the goals of this RFP. We hope to partner with community-based organizations that serve these diverse communities, as well as providing employment to staff and leadership that are representative of the communities that they're serving. So we're prioritizing those who address disparities and disproportionalities and have limited resources, service gaps, and no community parenting resources. So you're probably all wondering what funding is available, and we have for the year 2008 to 2018, gosh, that's backdating, to 2019, a total of $150,000. We're designating $75,000 per community. So that's $75,000 for the Somali community and $75,000 for the Latino, Latina, Latinx community. And the contract period will be 1 full year. Our rating criteria, really would like to call your attention to the RFP. And if you don't know, our RFP is actually in Zoom Grants. And so you have to go into Zoom Grants and click on a link and set up an email and email address and a password in order to get access to the RFP. But there you actually will be able to access a hard copy of the RFP and you can download it. And I really would like for you to call attention to the rating criteria that we've outlined. So we're paying a lot of attention to the program description and your ability to really talk about the work that you've done and how you can really continue to promote these concepts of brain development and brain science in these very specific communities. All of the proposals that are submitted will be reviewed and scored by a panel of community members and subject matter experts, as well as King County staff. So that's standard procedure as well as appeals. So any applicant that is interested in appealing a decision that has been made on the awarded funding has the opportunity to do so. You can also check the RFP for full information about that process. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah J., who is going to talk to you about the data and evaluation piece. Sarah J.
Thank you, Devon. I'm glad to be able to participate on the webinar today. There's a couple topics that I'm going to address, which first will be thinking through some creative ideas about using data in your in your application, and then secondly, what you can expect from us about evaluation if you are funded under this strategy. So Best Starts for Kids Data and Evaluation Team has 3 guiding principles, which we hope you'll see reflected in our work together, which are partnership, collaboration, and accessibility. So with that in mind, let's think a little bit about the opportunity to use data to help tell your story in your application. There's tons of data out there. We have some that we're sharing, which I'll show you a little bit of. You probably have access to a lot of rich and compelling community data and your own programmatic data as well. So I always recommend start by thinking through what's the story that you want to tell in your application. What are the unique assets that your organization has, strengths in the community that you serve that you want to build on, needs perhaps that you see families and parents and caregivers in your community experiencing that you want to be able to address with this proposal. So think about the story that you want to tell. And then think about what kind of information will help substantiate your story and make it compelling to reviewers. As Devon described, there's a diverse panel that are reviewing the applications with each RFP. So there will be people who might have a lot of expertise in the area or know a lot about your community, as well as people who don't already know that, and you sharing data in a way that's compelling can really help you make the case for reviewers. So once you have in mind what that story is and what information can help you back it up, then go out there and find what you're looking for. I always say there's a ton, and if you love data like I do, it's easy to fall down a rabbit hole of looking through it. And if you don't love data, it can be equally overwhelming and really frustrating to just start digging around. So having a little bit more targeted approach will hopefully save you some time. So when we say data, what do we mean by that? Numbers are almost always the first thing that pops into folks' heads about what data is. And again, King County is putting a lot of quantitative data out there, which I will show you a bit of, but it's certainly not the only kind of data that is valued by Best Starts for Kids or that will be really compelling to reviewers. You also might consider using qualitative data like stories or pictures. As long as you have the permission of maybe folks that you serve or folks in your community and are sharing their stories in a way that they're comfortable with, this can be a really, really compelling way to really make what the issues that you're talking about in your proposal concrete for reviewers. It also can be really powerful to pair different types of data together. So maybe you find a number that shows something going on in your community, but a client has a personal experience of this, and you're able to share a quote from them that really drives it home to reviewers. This is how this is impacting people's lives and why it's important that we address it. So think really creatively about what data means. Best Starts for Kids absolutely values qualitative data as much as the numbers that are out there. So thinking about all those different kinds of data, where can you find it? I'm going to show you some Best Starts for Kids indicators, which Devon mentioned a little bit earlier on the webinar. We are sharing this data because we want to be open and transparent, and I like to take a minute to show it to everyone because it's not always intuitive to navigate, and I want you to feel confident digging around if you decide to do that. But it's definitely not the only good source of data. You're not going to get extra points in the review if you use our data. It's just one source of information that's available to you. So these indicators are what we are keeping an eye on for Best Starts for Kids as a whole. So across all of our strategies, all the different programs, all the different grants, these are some of the big picture things that tell us how the community of children and families all across King County are doing. You can see there's a lot in there to look at. Let's go ahead and I have a wonderful colleague who's helping me with this, following along. So let's go ahead in that search box and put in screenings. And we're going to find an indicator that is relevant to a lot of our work, but particularly, that's not coming up. Can you take out the S in screening? There we go. So developmental screening. Who in King County, what parents are saying that their young children have had access to a developmental screening? The first page you'll see is usually a map, and that can show you geographic disparities when there's differences by place in a particular indicator of how many people are experiencing something or accessing something. And here we see that there are some differences, so it looks a bit lower in Seattle than in the north part of King County, for example. If we go up to the top, I also want to show you this demographics tab. And this is where we really break it down to the greatest extent that we are able, how this is impacting different communities in King County. So you'll see the kind of general race and ethnicity categories that are usually collected in data. But in this case, we have it broken down by much more specific groups as well, which can be helpful. You also will see breakdowns by language. Unfortunately, in this case for Somali, you see a little caret. When we don't have enough data, we have to suppress it to protect confidentiality, so that's why you might see some missing things for smaller communities. But as much data as we're able to share, we're putting it in here, so you can look at it by different regions, different race, ethnicity, language spoken at home, all kinds of different stuff. We know that for many communities, the bigger categories aren't relevant to the folks that you serve every day, so we're trying to make it as granular as we can. So that's a look at our indicators page. If you have trouble finding what you're looking for there, there's a webinar you can watch that's totally focused on putting data into your application, and then there also will be technical assistance that can help you with all kinds of things for your application, which Devon will mention, but finding and incorporating data is just one of the things that they can help you with. So again, to sum that up, that's some of our King County data. I think some of the most powerful data comes from you, from your community. If you have results of programs that you've done, if you have even information about who is involved as staff and leadership in your organization and how they reflect the community that you serve, that absolutely can be equally as powerful. But we want everybody to know what we're putting out there so that everybody has equal access to that data as well. So moving on to evaluation. If you are funded, all programs are required to participate in our evaluation efforts, but you don't need to worry about including anything in your proposal. We will be partnering with the evaluation team, Devon, and the funded organizations to develop that collaboratively once funding is awarded. So what we're really looking for is just a willingness to work together with us on that evaluation, and our goal will be to identify information that's meaningful and feasible to collect, and hopefully not replicate in a slightly different way reporting you might already be doing, that kind of thing. I'll also note that you'll see on the application an opportunity to check off which indicators your proposal will impact, and that's not something you're going to be rated on. It's not in the criteria. You don't need to check every single one that you can possibly imagine being connected to your programming. It's totally fine. It's preferable to just choose the ones that you actually feel the most relevant to you. That just helps us keep track of how the work that we're doing is connected to these big picture community health issues that we want to impact. So keep that in mind when it comes to fill out that part of the proposal. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Devon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah J. So again, Devon Love here with the Best Starts for Kids, Help Me Grow, Public Health, Seattle, King County, and I'm the Vroom Activation Manager and Help Me Grow Systems Manager. I'm going to go ahead and finish up our webinar here today until we get to the opportunity to ask some questions. So first off, just wanted to let you know that you can stay connected to us. Some of you may already be signed up for the Best Starts for Kids blog, and you can see the web address here. It's beststartsblog.com. If you aren't, or you know someone who's not, I would encourage you to sign up for that blog. It's the place where you can get your first access into all of the information that comes through and forth about Best Starts for Kids. You can also get more information about the initiative as a whole and all of the work that we're doing by going to our website at kingcounty.gov/beststarts. Again, you can join the blog, and you can also follow us on Twitter as a social media platform to get additional information about the work that we're doing with Best Starts for Kids. And then I do want to just let you know about a couple of additional opportunities to get information about this RFP that can be shared with your colleagues if perhaps they missed our webinar today. This webinar is being recorded, so will be uploaded for your access at a later point in time. But there are 2 in-person information sessions that will be occurring this week. The first is on Wednesday, May 23rd. From 12:30 to 1:30, and that's going to be held at the King County Library that's located in Skyway. The address is at 12601 76th Avenue South. There's parking on site and will be in their large meeting room. The second is the next day, Thursday, May 24th, from 11 to 12, and it's at the King County Library in Kent. This is in the downtown Kent sort of area. That address is 212 2nd Avenue North, and we'll be in their small community meeting room. If you have questions about any of this process, you can certainly ask those questions. And because our process is going through Zoom grants, you can use the activity log link that is found on the upper right-hand corner of your view of the application. You can send your questions through that log link, and then those answers will be uploaded to the library section in a document, in a Q&A document that you can access at any time. I also want you to know that technical assistance is provided to you and your organizations for support with development of your proposals. That technical assistance is available to you for free, and I encourage you to utilize it. They're great people that are willing to work with you to help you put forth your best effort in getting this proposal submitted. And then I also just want to call your attention to the fact that the submissions for this particular request for proposals will close on Tuesday, July 3rd at 5 p.m. And they will close, and in order to make sure that your application goes through, you have to have completed all of the questions that are open to you in the Zoom grants categories, and then you can submit your application. But it will definitely close on July 3rd at 5 p.m. So again, as I stated earlier, you're encouraged to seek out technical assistance in order to look at your proposal development, so they can help determine your eligibility to apply for this RFP. They can explain the application process and requirements. They can edit and proofread, and they can just help you flesh out your ideas and help you figure out what data, as Sarah J. indicated, what data you can use that will tell your story. It's in your best interest to seek out this assistance no later than 3 days before the RFP deadline, and that's 3 business days. You need to reach out to TA before that deadline. Here's a list of those technical assistance providers, their emails. You can see there's about 6 different entities. So we suggest that if you reach out to one, give them a bit of time to respond to you, like a day or 2. And then if you don't hear from them, reach out to another. They are supporting all of the requests for proposals that come out of Best Starts for Kids, but we'll be aware of our opportunity and be able to assist you as well. So now I'm going to open it up to any questions that people might have, and see what's going on. So do we have some questions? No? That makes me feel like everything is just so crystal clear.
If you're on the phone, you've been unmuted, but you need to unmute yourself, and then we can hear you over the phone.
So I have a question here, and it says, if you're doing 2 grants total, are you expecting all of King County to be covered by the recipients of the 2 grants? And yes, we're expecting you to be able to work within those 2 specific communities, the Somali community and the Latina, Latinx community within King County. That could be through collaboration with other community organizations as well, but our hope is to get as much information as we can from the community in King County as a whole. You are most welcome. Thank you. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes here to see if there's any additional questions. Of course, you know there are opportunities to ask questions through your technical assistance providers, but as well as that activity log that I mentioned in Zoom Grants. And those questions will be addressed as they come in. And certainly as you're processing this information and thinking about what you might want to submit in your applications. Well, all right. I want to again thank you for your time today. I appreciate you tuning in or listening to this recorded webinar at a later date, and thinking about considering applying for a Vroom Community Connector RFP grant, funding opportunity. And I look forward to working with you all.